How's it going, everybody? This is Rob Novakast back with another episode review of Arcane of League of Legends. We'll be talking about episode 3, the base violence necessary for change. Oh my gosh, this episode's probably going to tug at the heartstrings a little bit. More so with, I guess if anything, the bond between Vi or Violet and Powder. Oh boy, how do I even begin to talk about this? I guess if anything, I guess to kind of go separately, because we have two separate things that are going on in this particular episode. First off, I want to quickly talk about the Jace and Victor thing, because there's two plot lines that kind of like coexist in this episode. Stuff that's going on with Jace and Victor, as well as the stuff that's going on in the underground. I guess if anything, just quickly go over the stuff with the Jace and Victor. And oh my gosh, this was pretty cool, and I think it really kind of sets up stuff that's going to happen, or how it may end up backfiring. I think to an extent, I guess to a certain degree. Jace and Victor brainstorm going through Jace's notes on how they could get the whole, magic through science thing to work. Sure enough, they do end up figuring out a possible way of doing it, but unfortunately they don't have any of Jace's research equipment or tools. So what they end up having to do is sneak into the school, or the science technology school that Jace was in, to try to retrieve his technology that he built himself. Sure enough, they end up getting caught by one of the councilmen, who to an extent I want to say is intrigued, or kind of, I guess if anything, wants to see something different in everything that's going on. So she kind of lets them be, and I guess near the very end of this whole thing shows up at the right moment to see the fruits of their labor, because to an extent they get everything set up and they're ready to get magic to work for them. And sure enough, they do end up getting it to work, and it's actually really cool. It is a really cool thing to see. Now, and again, this will set up more likely stuff that will come up down the line when it comes down to the quote-unquote hex tech, which I'm very curious to see. But anyhow, besides that, stuff at the underground. So, where we last left Vi, she was waiting in Benzo's, and sure enough, more ready to fight. And to a degree, Vander shows up and proceeds to lock her into the basement of Benzo's shop, and basically kind of offers himself to the wolves, to the council, to appease them after what was stolen. Though that plan doesn't come to fruition, because unfortunately, Soco, this guy that keeps showing up, who's like kind of like the side, or I don't know if I can call him the side villain. If anything, he's more of the main villain. I don't even know if I can even call him a villain. I mean, to an extent, he has good intentions, but at the same time is going about it the wrong way, because I've noticed, especially with this particular character, Silko, what he really wants is for the rest of the underground, the lanes, everybody to be free, compared to, the people higher up or living in the higher areas of the city. That's all he wants, but he's doing it a different way compared to what we see for Vander, where he wants to cause conflict. He wants to, create fear amongst those within the council, those who are in the higher families. So, to an extent, especially with creating this formula that he calls Shimmer, it creates or turns people into monsters. And sure enough, we get to see the extent of that, where one of his monsters, this kid that we saw like once in the second episode, and once in the first episode, the one that actually got beat up by Violet, ends up tearing up a bunch of the enforcers in his new monstrous form. So after that, and also Benzo dies, who was, I'm assuming, the caretaker of Echo, who was another character. They call him Little Man briefly in the first episode, but yeah, he's called Echo. And what they end up doing is Violet, after the massacre, then proceeds to go and find Chador and Milo, and proceed to, set up a play to rescue Vander from Soco. Now, before they leave, Violet strictly tells Powder not to leave, which, to an extent, I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I kind of thought that this would happen later in the episode. I did see this clip, or this moment of the episode, but there's a moment where it seems like she's briefly kind of going insane. And like I said, I've kind of thought that this would be later in the episode, but apparently not. But anywho, going further, after Powder's brief mental breakdown, she remembers the crystals she has and decides that she wants to still help, regardless of Violet telling her not to. So what ends up happening is freaking crazy. Milo, Chador, and Vi end up falling into a trap. Very simple one, actually. But while Milo and Chador are trying to find a way to release Vander and escape, or find an escape plan, Vi is using these iron gauntlets that apparently used to be Vander's, and proceeds to beat down most of Silko's syndicate. Though that doesn't help her much once the monster, the guy turns back into the monster, and she's beaten down, and it seems like it's getting, the whole situation is becoming worse and worse. Eventually, Powder shows up and proceeds to create her brand new bomb, or use her brand new bomb, or as she calls it, a monkey bomb, that has a bunch of the crystals inside the body of the monkey, and between the symbols that the monkey uses, it has, I'm assuming, needles or spikes actually in each symbol, and in between the symbols are one of the crystals. And when this thing goes off, it just causes a chain reaction of, explosions, causing one of the gang members to lose their arm. Chador and Milo unfortunately die, and a bunch of rubble collapse on top of themselves, or on top of them. Vi isn't killed in this situation, but to an extent is in deep trouble, because eventually, with only the monster and two other guys, Silko orders them to kill the rest of them, kill Vander, Vi, and the others. And Vander decides to try to basically make a final stand. Proceeds to make makeshift kind of brass knuckles, and proceeds to beat down a couple of the last two guys and try to fight off the monster. So that doesn't work, unfortunately, especially with how strong the monster is. So Vander, after being thrown off a ledge, first being stabbed twice by Silko, is thrown off a ledge and into several crates of that shimmer. And before the monster is able to take out Vi, Monster Vander shows up to kill the monster and then proceeds to rescue Vi, although trying to fight the urge to kill her. He ends up dying, and unfortunately, like the worst moment, Powder shows up to, try to get appreciation for her new bomb. This ends up angering Violet, and to an extent leaves Powder on her own by herself with the body of their adoptive father. Which honestly, I think is probably like the hardest scenes to watch in this show so far, especially with just this entire breakdown, and also Vi kind of mimicking what Milo was calling Powder, which was calling her a jinx. So, all in all, it's all bad. And it even gets worse when Vi turns around after leaving and finds out that Silko is right there. And she tries to save her sister, but unfortunately gets chloroformed by this piece of shit enforcer who basically made a deal with Silko. So unfortunately things are bad for Vi, or at least by the end of the episode we don't know what's going to end up happening now. And by the end of it, it seems like Silko ends up taking in Powder. Basically, make his last lines being, "We'll show them all." And for a brief second, we see one of Powder's eyes, and it turns from a blue to a violet, or like a bright purple. And honestly, it looks really cool. I'm wondering if that's like something for the character. I don't know, but either way, it looked really cool. All in all, this episode was really good. The feels are strong with this one. I gotta say, I think if anything, if I were to give two parts that I actually like in this episode, it would have to be the fact that, one, when it comes down to our characters Jace and Victor, getting their experiment to work. And unfortunately, as much as as emotional as it was, I think if anything, the last moments of Powder and Violet were really good. And I don't want people thinking I'm some kind of emotionalist sadist or something. And when it comes to emotional storytelling, if it's done really well, I actually enjoy it. And I don't take complete joy out of it. More of I appreciate it because you feel for the characters. So, all in all, really good storytelling with this episode. But with that, I don't think I have anything else I need to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. Truly appreciate it. And special thanks to everybody who's been following me thus far for these episode reviews. If you guys can, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you guys want to follow us on social media, links are in the description down below, as well as check out our daily content and the weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Rob Novakast signing off. Have a good one, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.